All right, welcome back to the Liz Wheeler Show. I'm Liz Wheeler. You know the drill. Make sure you are subscribed before we start the show today. Go over to youtube.com/Liz Wheeler, or if you're watching live on X, go to x.com/Liz_Wheeler. Make sure you're following. We're also live on Rumble and on Facebook. Make sure everywhere that you can possibly follow. Spotify, we have video now. Go ahead and follow us over there. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is joining us live here in just a moment. We're going to bring her on. She had a viral post over the last 2 days. And there have been allegations. She's faced allegations since this post went viral, allegations that she's breaking up with President Trump. I don't know if I believe that. It seems more likely that her post was constructive criticism, the type that helps Trump sharpen his execution of the America First mega agenda. But we figured we would bring her on the show and we would ask her directly. No need to speculate about what she meant. We'll ask her what she means. Also, we're going to talk to her about what Congress is actually going to do to hold corrupt swamp creatures accountable for all of their abuses of power that you and I suffered during the Biden administration. I want to see perp walks and orange jumpsuits, and Congress needs to do their part in making this happen. So she's going to join us here in just a moment. We're going to bring her on. The show is sponsored today by All Family Pharmacy. I like to say there are 3 institutions in our country that are the most corrupt: big education, the administrative state, aka the deep state or the swamp, and big pharma. And these 3 institutions conspire to limit our freedoms, which is why I spend a lot of time strategizing how to maximize your freedom and mine. And here's how I do it. Medical freedom in particular is of the utmost importance to me, which is why I'm proud to partner with All Family Pharmacy, because All Family Pharmacy believes in your right to choose your own healthcare without restrictions from big pharma or government interference. And it's really easy how it works. You order online, so no waiting room, no pharmacy lines. You just order it online, and your medications are shipped directly to your door. And when I say your medications, I'm talking over 200 medications available: hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, antibiotics, medbendazole, blood pressure meds, maintenance meds, everything you need, they've got it. Fast shipping, you can order within 2 to 4 business days, or if you need it right away, you can order overnight. All Family's Pharmacy is family owned. They are a private pharmacy that puts people before profits. They believe in your medical freedom, which is why they exist. That's why they're trusted by over 100,000 Americans. Get 10% off today. If you check them out, go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz and use my promo code Liz10. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz, code Liz10. All right, we're going to bring the Congresswoman on in just a second, but our second sponsor of the day is American Heart for Gold. You remember Joe Biden, the guy that appeared to be photoshopped in the back of the Easter photo, his family photo that was posted on X? I still don't believe that was really him. I think they photoshopped him in there. He might have disappeared, but the impacts of his destructive policies on our lives have not disappeared. For example, the US dollar is still facing unprecedented inflation thanks to Joe Biden's spending, his reckless, intentional devaluation of the US dollar. And this is the playbook, right, of these politicians who want to use our money to control us. They want to ruin the value of our money so that we are forced to rely on them. That's why it's never been more important than for you to take control over your own wealth. Don't let your life savings become a casualty of failing banks or currency wars. Now is the time to call the only precious metal dealer that I trust: American Heart for Gold. They'll show you how to protect your savings, your retirement accounts by diversifying your wealth portfolio with physical gold and silver. My husband and I did this. A portion of our wealth portfolio is now in physical precious metals, and we're confident that we cannot be controlled by politicians because of that. So tell American Heart for Gold that I sent you. They'll give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first order. Call them right now. You can click the link in the description of this episode, or you can call 866-996-5172. That's 866-996-5172, or text Liz to 998899. Again, the phone number is 866-996-5172, or you can send a text message, Liz, to 998899. All right, without further ado, let's bring Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She represents Georgia's 14th Congressional District, a Republican if there ever was one. Congresswoman Greene, thanks for joining the show.
Hi, Liz. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Congresswoman, you went mad viral, as they say, over the weekend with this post. I'm just going to read a summary of it so everyone knows what we're talking about here. You said, "I represent the base, and when I'm frustrated and upset over the direction of things, you better be clear the base is not happy. I campaigned for no more foreign wars. And now we're supposedly on the verge of going to war with Iran. Why on earth should we also go over and occupy Ukraine and spend an untold amount of future American taxpayer dollars defending and mining their minerals, as well as potentially putting American lives at risk and future war? You say I also campaigned on accountability for the communist and tyrannical acts made by the government during COVID, yet the COVID vaccine still has FDA approval. You say I also campaigned on accountability for all the lawfare that was waged against the American people in the past 4 years. You say I campaigned for an end to waste, fraud, and abuse of the American people's hard-earned tax dollars. I believe the DOGE mission is one of the most important things happening today in our government, and yet where are the rescissions that should be voting on in Congress? And look at the extreme nature of our rogue judicial system you posted that's so defiant that there are judges that defy our nation's laws and block the deportation of literal enemies of the United States. Where's the outrage, the moral courage to dispose of this treason? Sadly, not in Congress. And you say, what about election integrity? This should be the most important issue that the Republicans aggressively fight to protect. And you conclude with a very strong statement. You say, when you are losing MTG, you are losing the base. And Trump isn't on the ballot in the future, so do the math on that. So my question to you is, there have been allegations that this post means that you're breaking up with President Trump and the America First agenda. And then on the other hand, there are people who are saying this is constructive criticism to make sure that Trump executes on the America First agenda in as sharp of a way as possible. I just want to ask you, what is behind this post?
Not breaking up with President Trump. As a matter of fact, I think there's very little daylight between myself and the president. I would imagine he's pretty frustrated too. I was completely expressing how I feel and how virtually everyone I know and talks to, how they feel. And the purpose of that post is to be transparent and honest, and to let everyone know that I believe Congress is failing on the job. And I believe that there are people that are constantly trying to get in the president's office and bend his ear, pulling him in directions that we don't want to go in. And so I was just being as honest as I possibly could. And I'm basically pulling the alarm, Liz, so to speak. And it's important because a lot of people watching probably don't realize that in Joe Biden's first 100 days of his presidency, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats sent 11 bills to his desk, and they sent their reconciliation bill to Joe Biden's desk in less than 100 days. However, in President Trump's first 100 days, Congress, Republican-controlled House and Senate, only sent five bills to President Trump's desk, and that included a Biden CR, a Democrat continuing resolution of funding and policy. We didn't get the job done in President Trump's first 100 days, and I think that's a failure. I also believe that President Trump's executive orders are so popular and historic that there should be a conveyor belt literally from the White House to the House of Representatives, and we should be voting on these ASAP. However, we've hardly voted on a single one, and I think the first one coming is actually my bill that would codify his executive order to rename the Gulf of America. Thirdly, rescissions. DOGE is doing the most patriotic work we've seen in decades as far as the budget and our debt is concerned. Those rescissions can pass the House and they can pass the Senate with only 51 votes, not having to meet the 60 vote threshold requirement in the Senate. And we have 53 Republican senators. And the reconciliation bill, Liz, is another one. That one can pass the House and the Senate with 51 votes, not having to meet the 60 vote rule. So I'm expressing my frustration and expressing everyone's frustration that this is not what the American people, they made a very loud and clear demand back in November of 2024. And it wasn't reelecting the Republican Party. They elected Donald John Trump and the MAGA agenda, America First agenda, and the MAHA agenda. And if Republicans here in Washington have not gotten the message, they're going to lose, and it's going to be bad.
So it sounds like it would be fair to say that the post was an indictment of the Republican Congress and not of President Trump. Your detractors are always going to willfully misinterpret you. I don't need to tell you that. I think that your analysis of your base is accurate. There was a photo that was posted of the House Republican majority on the steps of the Capitol. And if you scroll under this photo, this was posted just this week, and you scroll under this photo, all of the comments are like, what are you guys doing? You're just telling us that you're back from vacation. Are you ever going to do what we sent you there to do? And my question to you is, when it comes to some of these things that happened to your constituents, to, my friends and family and neighbors and people who work in conservative politics and media, people were targeted by the Biden administration. Pro-lifers were targeted. Parents against critical race theory and transgenderism were targeted. Journalists were targeted. The January 6th defendants were targeted unfairly. I keep saying over and over on the show, I want to see perp walks. I want to see orange jumpsuits. I don't want to see just chants of lock her up and then, forgive and forget. I want to see not retribution, but justice. What's Congress's role in that? And how can you help make that happen?
I completely agree with you. Unfortunately, they never gave me the ability to arrest people. So I can't do much there, even though I have many people, when I'm out of Washington, they're like, why haven't you arrested anyone? And I say, they won't let me. I don't have that power as a member of Congress. However, I chair the DOGE committee, and I've held some explosive hearings and have many more planned coming up. And I think what Congress can be doing is fighting back against lawfare. I am completely in favor of impeaching judges. This is a no-brainer. We have a judicial coup going on in this country, and I would even say that we should be calling it exactly what it is. It's treason. It's treason that these judges are blocking the deportation of criminal illegal aliens, cartels, murderers, rapists. It is treason to protect the enemies of America, and that's what they are doing. And, I would like to be on a team that takes that serious, and I'm just not seeing that here with Republicans in Congress. As a matter of fact, Speaker Johnson actually said today that that it's not serious to impeach judges. But the truth is, Liz, we don't have the votes to get it done, and that should tell the American people where Republicans stand, supposedly representing them here in Washington, D.C. So I totally agree with you. I know there's a lot of investigations going on at the Department of Justice. I continually urge them to continue with that. We need to see accountability held for COVID. We need to see accountability held for COVID vaccines that were mandated on the American people. We need to see accountability that has been forced on our children and what it did to them, shutting down their schools. We need the COVID vaccine taken off the childhood vaccine schedule, and that should have happened already. And I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. J6ers, they had their pardons, but let's be real. We should be targeting people that abuse them, U.S. attorneys that maliciously prosecuted them, judges that abused the power of their bench and gave them unbelievably harsh sentences after they were supposedly found guilty. There's a lot that we should be doing that many people aren't seeing happen, and that's the frustration. It's big, and I'm trying to speak out about it and push my colleagues and push Republicans to get on board with what they campaign for.
And I guess my question there is twofold. Can we hold congressional hearings where those prosecutors and judges are subpoenaed, brought to Congress, and they are questioned under penalty of perjury to tell the truth about what was done to J6? And if there's no appetite, as you were just mentioning, Speaker Johnson, if there's no appetite, does that come from the top down that your colleagues dare not defy Speaker Johnson because he holds the purse strings for their reelection campaign? Or is that because ideologically they are squishes?
Well, that's a two-part question. So I'll go with the first part first. Yes, committees can subpoena these judges. Judiciary Committee would be a perfect place for that to happen. Chairman Jim Jordan has it completely in his jurisdiction to subpoena these judges, pull them before the House Judiciary Committee, put them under oath, and ask some very hard questions about the United States Constitution and about our laws and exactly why they're ruling the way they're ruling. The American people deserve to see that. And as far as impeachment is concerned, I would say that it's more of an ideological problem within the Republican Party, within the Republican conference here, that we have many Republicans that would never want to be forced to take that vote because they would vote no against impeaching these radical rogue judges that I would say are committing treason, and they would be outed. And so I think this is more of the speaker protecting these Republicans so that they aren't exposed. But you know what, Liz? That's what primaries are for. That's exactly the purpose of a primary. And, you know, I'm in disagreement. I think we should take all kinds of votes, all kinds of hard votes. And our voting records should be public, because that is our job performance, not only for the district that we represent, but for the entire country.
Yeah, and that's why I agree with you on that. I'm a fierce advocate of every single political issue being put in front of Congress, because actions speak louder than words. You can pretend to say what your constituents want to hear. You can dodge, you can deflect, you can obfuscate. But when it comes to voting yes or no on a particular issue, all American voters should know exactly how their representatives in Congress stand officially on issues. So that would be my way of weeding out the squishy Republicans. Just put everything in front of them, and your constituents will be horrified when they see how other people vote. You're holding a DOGE committee hearing tomorrow at 2:00 in the afternoon to hold American fencing accountable. You say they violated President Trump's executive order on protecting girls' sports from men infiltrating. What's going to go down there?
Yes, I'm honored to have Stephanie Turner, the very brave fencing athlete, female fencing athlete, biological female fencing athlete. She's coming as a witness to the DOGE committee hearing tomorrow. And we're also honored to have Peyton McNabb. And Peyton McNabb has the unfortunate story that is now famous. She's the volleyball athlete that had a volleyball spiked so viciously into her head that she suffered brain damage from this biological male that was on the opposing team and spiked that ball directly into her head. So I'm honored to have these young women that are bravely coming before the DOGE committee to talk about, once again, why biological men should not be competing in girls and women's sports. I mean, this was a top issue in the past campaign cycle. It was a winning issue for Republicans, but Democrats have decided to double down, and this is the hill they want to die on. They protect trans more than any other thing, and everyone has got to question why they keep going deeply into this issue. So we'll be having the chairman of the board of the Fencing Association. He has a very interesting social media history and email history that we'll be talking about tomorrow, as he has advocated for biological men defeating and beating women in their sport, which violates Title IX and also violates President Trump's executive order. But Liz, I want you to know, we just found out who the minority witness is. And this is a very interesting woman that I think many people, including yourself, would like to see some harsh questions for, and that is Fatima Graves. Fatima Graves is the wife of former U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves that prosecuted every single January 6th defendant, every single one that was sent to jail and imprisoned and just had their rights violated as a U.S. citizen. And she's also the one that led the charge to unseat Justice Clarence Thomas from the Supreme Court. She is a very high-ranking Democrat activist, and this is who the Democrats are bringing in, one of their big dogs, to be their minority witness tomorrow. So I urge people to tune in. The hearing is at 2 p.m. It will be the DOGE subcommittee on oversight.
Yeah, and I think that we will be watching with bated breath when you get a chance to question these individuals. And again, I kudos for the courage of these girls who've been harmed by boys and women's sports too. Let me ask you about your advocacy on COVID. I think is the best out of everyone in the House of Representatives. A lot of Republicans seem to just want to push this in the past, which is insane to me, because if you don't hold people accountable, they'll just be empowered to do it again. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden obviously pardoned Dr. Fauci on his way out the door in January of this year, which means that he can't be prosecuted for his crimes. I mean, we know not only did he violate gain of function prohibitions, he lied to Senator Rand Paul in the United States Senate, which is perjury. He can't be prosecuted at the federal level. However, because he's been pardoned, he can still be subpoenaed by the United States Congress, and he can't plead the fifth because he can't self-incriminate if he can't be prosecuted. So is there any appetite Could we bring Dr. Fauci in before the United States Congress and question him in detail about everything that he has done wrong related to the COVID vaccine and locking people down and manipulating science and allowing China farming out our dangerous gain-of-function bioweapons experiments to the Chinese, knowing that it would lead to the creation and release of the COVID-19 virus? Can we do that?
Well, Dr. Fauci, or so-called Dr. Fauci, I served on the COVID committee last Congress, and we actually had Fauci come in before our committee. We had him come in privately and question him for many hours, and then we had him appear before the full committee. So I have seen him being questioned for hours and hours, and what I can tell you is he has a very sick ideology as far as science is concerned. This is a man that believes in the gain of function so much so that he wants to play God. He fully believes in creating viruses, which are bioweapons, in order to create the vaccines to cure these bioweapons. And this is what he believes is the way to save humanity. It's absolutely not. It is the way to kill humanity. And we already saw that happen on a large scale when COVID happened. Liz, I can tell you there's probably, unfortunately, not enough appetite in our conference to do that, to bring him back. I will tell you, however, I have a very big interest into investigating the vaccines. And that will be something that the public will see in the future coming from my DOGE subcommittee.
And listen, every time Dr. Fauci's on television or even before Congress, he dodges. He's very tricky with his rhetoric. Mm-hmm. But when you were speaking with him behind the scenes, off the record, not in front of television cameras, did he openly admit that he believes in gain-of-function research, that he thinks it's a net positive to society?
Oh, yeah. I heard him talk about it. And it was the most disturbing, chilling dialogue that I've ever heard. Is he has a God complex. He truly believes that in this methodology that has been going on for so many years. I mean, this man got accused for killing people with AIDS. Think about how long this has been going on. And he fully believes in this disgusting Dr. Frankenstein style science where you create a monster virus, you create a bioweapon, and then you create a cure, a vaccine to treat it or prevent it or whatever it's supposed to be. But that's nothing. That's basically inventing a product that they can sell. And that's why I think the vaccine industry is so important to look into. And I'd also further like to point out from everyone, we may not be able to prosecute Anthony Fauci from the federal level, but state prosecutors can. And this is where state attorney generals need to pony up. And this is where people need to be putting the pressure on these state attorney generals, because I think that's an area where prosecutions can happen and where they should.
And by the way, this is what we see in the reverse. It's obviously unjust when the Democrats use local DAs to go after President Trump because President Trump didn't commit crimes, but they know what they're doing strategically, even if morally and ethically and legally it's unjust. They at least know what they're doing. And there's no way, by the way, that that's going to stop that lawfare against President Trump from these local DAs unless Republicans also do it. And we actually have the justification to do it because the Democrats commit actual crimes. So earlier in the interview, you mentioned that there might be some individuals around Trump who have his ear, who have influence over what's going on, who don't agree with his America First agenda. Who do you mean by that?
Well, President Trump is the most powerful, influential man in the world. Everyone is texting, calling, begging their way into the Oval Office, begging their way to Mar-a-Lago on the weekends, trying to do anything they can to influence him for what they want. And the military-industrial complex is a machine. And they want nothing more to continue these foreign wars. And that's why I've been very outspoken against what the deal is, the deal that was made, that I don't think the American people don't know the details of this deal. It hasn't been published in our American media. However, it's been published widespread over in Ukraine in their media. And this agreement signed between the United States and Ukraine literally has language that says this, that America is going to guarantee the security, prosperity, and reconstruction of Ukraine. And there's no way the American people should ever be on the hook for any of that. We didn't bomb Ukraine. We didn't destroy Ukraine. We should not have to guarantee their prosperity. That's their happiness and its success. Our country is already paying over $1 billion a month to fund their government, which is absurd. And we don't know where all our money went to begin with, because the audit that I requested never came back. And we know that an untold amount of money has been stolen, and money laundering has occurred. We also know that they took our weapons that were given to them and they sold it to our enemies. And so I am very much against the mineral deal that has been made. And I think that was the wrong thing to do, because after all, Liz, let's be real. When we went into Iraq looking for so-called weapons of mass destruction, you know what some of the things we were told is, oh, well, they have oil and America can benefit from the oil in the Middle East. We didn't benefit from any of that oil. We were stuck in a war for 2 decades. And Afghanistan had all $1 trillion worth of rare earth minerals. And the United States paid for all of the construction of all the roads and everything to mine those minerals. Well, you know who's mining those minerals today? China. So America never benefits from any of these deals. And I think it's easy to write off a couple $100 billion loss, because we had way more than that stolen in all the COVID payouts that were paid under Joe Biden and the Democrats. And I think we should move on to mining our own rare earth minerals right here at home, create jobs that we have, and release it from federal lands. So I think there's a lot smarter ways to do that than possibly tying us into a deal that has no end date and could lead us and drag our military into some future escalation and war.
It's almost like a pseudo NATO membership if we're guaranteeing their security. Listen, this is why I was happy to see Mike Waltz, former national security advisor, be demoted to the pointless position at the UN, because, I mean, let's be real, he's a neocon. And you're exactly right. President Trump has been rich and famous for a long time, and he's used to people trying to suck up to him and buddy up to him because he was a powerful and influential celebrity. Well, now he has political power as well. That's only going to increase people trying to get in his orbit, even if they don't agree with his agenda. And, you know, we on this show always say that we are providing a helpful service in giving him information about people who may be around him that he may not have been given by the people around him. Mike Waltz was one that we had called out for a long time. Mike Waltz's sister-in-law, Dr. Jeanette Nishiwat, the nominee for Surgeon General, is another. She's an absolute COVID freak. She called the vaccine a gift from God. She advocated for masking of children. She praised Facebook for censoring so-called anti-vax information. This is someone who's on tap to lead the uniformed public health corps in the United States if her nomination goes through on Thursday morning in the United States Senate in front of the Help Committee. President Trump needs to know about these people who will hurt him, will hurt the America First agenda before it's too late.
I totally agree. I mean, let's be really honest. President Trump is one of the most hardest working people that all of us have known, but he doesn't have the hours in the day to vet all these people himself. He's relying on information that everyone is providing him. And let's contrast the difference between her and Ed Martin. We have this great attorney, Ed Martin, that President Trump loves. And we've got Republican senators that are Tom Tillis, Susan Collins, the chair of appropriations. These senators, Republican senators, are refusing to confirm Ed Martin. But I guarantee you that woman, she'll sail right through because she did all the right things for Big Pharma.
Yeah, Bill Cassidy, who torpedoed Dave Weldon for CDC, he said he had a great meeting with Dr. Jeanette. Well, I can't think of a better way to run as far away from her than Bill Cassidy endorsing her. All right, I know you have to go vote here. I could talk to you all day about this stuff because I think you're really fighting the good fight. Let me ask you quickly before you go. Okay. The midterm elections, oftentimes the incumbent party loses a lot of seats. What do you see on the horizon for Congress in 2026?
Well, I think President Trump is not on the ballot, but in some ways he is, because he's still president. He needs a Republican-controlled House and he needs a Republican-controlled Senate, a more Republican-controlled Senate. So those are still going to be issues that matter. But I think if Republicans are going to ask the American people to vote for them again and let us continue to have the majority and continue this contract that we're working on together, then Republicans here in the House and the Senate need to start delivering President Trump's agenda. And my warning is, if you don't do it, the American people, the base is not going to turn out. And if the midterm election campaigning turns into, oh, you got to vote for Republicans because if the Democrats win, they're going to impeach President Trump. I'm sorry. That's just not a scary enough narrative, because the American people have seen that happen twice, and they're not afraid of it. And it won't stop them from supporting President Trump. We got to win the midterms on our own merits, and that would be by passing the president's agenda.
Amen to that. And everybody watching, I mean, we have a very activist, very vocal audience. Raise your voice. You know you're part of this administration. Tell your elected representative to get on board with President Trump's America First agenda. You voted President Trump into office for that purpose, to execute that agenda. Make sure your Congress member is not doing the Democrats' job for him and stymieing him. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, thanks for joining us on the show. We'll be tuned in tomorrow to watch the DOGE subcommittee hearing. Good luck with that.
Right. Thank you, Liz.
Of course. You're welcome back anytime. All right, guys. Do you remember that man who was sent to prison for a political meme back after the 2016 election? He had posted a meme, and it was a joke, obviously. He had posted a meme telling Hillary Clinton voters to text a number if they wanted to cast their vote for her. Now, obviously, you can't vote by texting a number. And he was prosecuted and convicted for posting this meme on what was Twitter at the time. He's going to join us here in just a moment to talk about what's happening down in Texas, because right now they have a piece of legislation on tap in the Texas state legislature. Texas is supposed to stand for freedom and liberty, and yet even the Republicans in Texas are behind this piece of legislation that would criminalize certain political memes if they are altered from reality in any way. So like a meme, because that's what a meme is. He's going to join us in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you about Preborn. Preborn is a new sponsor of this show, and one that I am so proud to sponsor with because I'm pro-life. I believe that life begins at the moment of conception, that a new human life is formed at that moment, that human life is made in the image of God and thus has the same dignity and right to life as you do, as I do. Preborn's network of clinics exists exclusively to offer love, life, and support to pregnant mothers who are feeling scared and alone and are being pressured to make this ultimate choice that will not only sacrifice the life of their preborn baby, but take a piece of their own heart as well. When a distressed mother comes to Preborn, she's welcomed with open arms and is offered a free ultrasound to hear and see the precious life inside of her. And you know what happens? The majority of the time when a mom sees her unborn baby on an ultrasound screen, she chooses life for her child. This month of May, can you help us bring life to both babies and mothers? The goal of the Liz Wheeler Show is to sponsor ultrasounds for every single day of this month. One ultrasound is just $28. 5 ultrasounds are $140. Every penny goes towards loving mothers and babies well. I want to hear from you once you've made your pledge. Will you join us? Simply dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or visit preborn.com/Liz. That's preborn.com/Liz. Okay, we're going to bring Douglas Mackey on the show. He is the man, maybe the only one in American history who's been convicted in our court of law for a political meme. A political meme. He was found guilty. Free speech be damned, I suppose. Douglas Mackey is going to join us any moment when he joins us. Spencer will let us know when he's here. But he's going to discuss what's happening down in the state of Texas. In Texas, I don't understand, by the way, what's up with Texas, because Texas pretends to be Texas, freedom and liberty and get off my lawn, and yet they're not very conservative. Their Senator John Cornyn is like the epitome of a squish. I understand that there's an argument made by a lot of Texans that they have been infiltrated by people from California, which is true. There are a lot of Californians who come to Texas to escape California and then bring California politics. And there's also an argument that the demographic of Texas has been radically remade because of illegal immigration. That's also true. but it still doesn't explain why homegrown Texans are voting for squishy Republicans in their state legislature. It still doesn't explain fully why Republicans in the state of Texas are behind this bill. This HB, House Bill 366, prohibits using an altered image, which is a meme. An altered image makes it sound so sinister. An altered image, a meme, if you put any advertising money behind that meme during a campaign cycle, you can be prosecuted for this. So think about your life on X. Think about what you watch on YouTube. Think about how often we use memes in our culture. Memes actually, they're not just fun and funny. They are an incredibly powerful tool of communication in our modern social media landscape. And yet, Republicans in Texas are apparently not only afraid of them, which makes you wonder, why are you afraid of them? They are so out of touch with what their role is as a government official that they want to criminalize your speech. They want to manipulate you. They want to stifle your words and your political engagement and activism. And they want to punish you if you don't obey their rules. So Douglas Mackey is going to join us. Spence, is he in? Is he in the waiting room? Is he here yet? All right, let's bring him on. I want to get his take on this. All right, Douglas, good to see you.
How are you? Good to see you today.
I'm good. I'm just happy to see you in what appears to be a regular room and not in a prison cell here, since convicted of political memeing or whatever the high crime and misdemeanor that you were convicted of. It's good to have you on.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Fortunately, I'm not in prison at this time. I'm out on appeal.
Okay, there you go. I mean, I chuckle. It's not really funny, but it's so absurd that this could happen in the United States. First of all, I guess tell us the status of the lawfare against you, because this saga's, what is this, almost 10 years now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost been 10 years since this meme was published. I published this meme in 2016 during that cycle, and I wasn't even arrested till 2021. Went to trial in 2023, sentenced in 2023. And I was granted a bond pending appeal by the appeals court. So we had to go to the appellate court just to get a bond because it was denied by the district court judge. So now we got all our briefs in last year and argued the case in April. So this is ongoing. This is over 1 year later, almost 13 months that we're waiting on the Second Circuit Court. That's a federal court to make their decision in this case. So I'm still fighting this case. I'm still sort of waiting this out, and it's been a very long wait. So I really hope we get some good news soon.
So there's actually still the possibility that you could go to prison.
Yeah, it's still possible.
Which, mind-blowing to me. I mean, part of this, the fact that you posted this meme, again, a meme, in 2016, you weren't even arrested for 5 years. And then after your arrest, it was 2 years before anything was ever done about it, before your trial happened. Do you believe that the process of this is part of the punishment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even going back to, the subpoenas and the fact that if you post a meme that the government thinks is whatever they don't like for whatever reason, they're going to serve warrants on your whole entire life, all your finances, to try to build a case against you. I mean, that in and of itself chills speech. The fact that people can be investigated for this kind of a thing and even face prison just for posting a meme. We thought we had free speech, but here we are.
And what is this like for you, facing 10 years of being a target? And then, I mean, I ask you very bluntly, is there still a possibility of prison? You say, yeah, there could be. I mean, do you consider them to be successful in their process being the punishment, or are you just rolling with it because you believe, this is why God put you here, you'll fight this fight?
I'll fight the fight, and it's, important for me personally, of course. I mean, it's very just waiting on it, the stress and the hit on the finances, the fact that, there's in some ways you have to put your life on pause a little bit and, ask the court if I can travel outside of South Florida, that kind of a thing.
Do you have to do that?
Yeah, I still have to do that.
Oh, man.
And then, even after, if I were to actually go to prison for 7 months, then they want, I forget, 2 or 3 years of, probation. But ultimately, it's worth it because the court can strike down the really broad interpretation of this conspiracy statute, and that would be worthy. That would be worth something in and of itself if they would strike down and say, no, you can't go after someone for publishing speech just for memes. And the crazy thing is they didn't have any evidence of intent. Let's say that this was anything other than a joke, and that there was actually an intent that people were going to actually look at this meme and then fail to vote. There was no direct evidence presented of any intent. There was no evidence that there was an agreement among a larger universe of people to agree that, oh yeah, we're going to make this meme, we're going to publish it. I didn't even publish the meme. They didn't even find a single. I didn't even design the meme or make the meme. All I did was share it, something that I found online, and they didn't find a single person who actually saw this meme, believed it, and failed to vote. They didn't even find anyone who believed it and maybe still voted anyway. They didn't find single person, period.
You're kidding. Spence, do we have this meme? Can we show this? Because I want people to... I know a lot of people are familiar with Douglas's story, but this is the meme that you shared. Avoid the line, vote from home, text Hillary. Right. We've all seen this because your story went viral so many times, or most of us have seen this at this point. So let me just clarify this because it's almost unbelievable. So there are no victims here. There was nobody that said, oh, I texted and didn't show up to the voting booth on election day because I thought that I had voted via text. Not a single person.
Exactly. Not a single person. They elect to say that, oh, almost 5,000 people texted the meme. And yet none of those people actually believed it, that they could find. And there's no evidence that anyone even saw the meme until it was published widely. It went viral on like BuzzFeed and Wired and all these other people who were outraged over it.
Yeah, and my guess would be they for publishing it, they didn't get any kind of targeting. They weren't prosecuted for it. Okay, so you mentioned intent, and then you also mentioned that there's a possibility that the broad interpretation of a certain law could be overturned. You say it's worth it. Tell us what those nitty-gritty things are. What's the intent? Is intent a requirement for the crime that they're accusing you of?
Yeah, absolutely. Intent is a requirement for this kind of a law, which is this law goes back to the KKK. The law is a conspiracy against rights. So it was written because, if people were going to intimidate, threaten, harass, or there's another verb in the statute, people who were exercising their rights, for example, the right to vote. Yeah, well, okay, that makes sense. You can't intimidate someone or injure them when they're going to the polls or whatever, or they're exercising their right to free speech. And so they're saying that, oh, sharing this meme is a conspiracy to injure someone in their rights. They never found any direct evidence that I meant this as anything other than a lark, just a throwaway joke that people might get a laugh at. And not only that it was even going to go viral or anything like that. I think that was sort of beyond sort of what I was even thinking when I posted this meme that, oh, BuzzFeed is going to get all upset about this, and then 5,000 people are going to actually text the number. So that's an important element of the statute. And they just say, well, we have a sort of, you were in these group chats with people who are sharing this meme or talking about sharing it, even if they didn't even prove that I was even in the group chat at the time or reading the messages or responding to them.
And you didn't say anything.
Exactly.
So they're using somebody else's words as their quote unquote evidence that you had intent to intimidate real people from voting.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
That is literally so absurd. It's hard to believe that it's even gotten this far. It is so ridiculous. So ridiculous. And it's funny because when you're talking about, when you're describing the language of the statute to intimidate or otherwise injure someone when they're trying to exercise their rights, all I'm picturing is that video. I think it might have been even before the Trump era of during the Obama era of the Black Panthers outside of polling stations. It might have been in Philadelphia, in actually intimidating voters from voting Republican. And yet what happened to them? Of course, nothing happened to them because they were acting on behalf of the Democrats here. Okay, so then we get to, you say you're happy to fight this fight because there might be an interpretation of the statute that's overturned, so it could protect basically other people's free speech and their right to post memes on X. What is
Exactly.
that? language, and who's the judge that's gonna be involved in this?
So this case is currently at the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. That's one step
Yeah.
below the Supreme Court. There's a 3-judge panel that heard the case, and they're going to decide whether this can be, whether that there was any sort of reasonable notice to the average person that, if you just post a meme, that you're going to get prosecuted under a statute from 150 years ago, the KKK Act, as is colloquially known. So that's an important element of the appeal. The fact that the plain reading of the statute would suggest that this obviously would apply to people who are threaten people or injure people. It has also been applied to people that want to destroy ballots that have already been cast. And so these are all physical acts in the real world that are where it's plainly obvious that they're doing something wrong. Not to mention there's substantive crimes underneath. So if I assault someone, that's assault. And it could also be part of a conspiracy. We're all going to get together and assault someone to prevent them from voting. That's obvious. And our argument is that the way they're applying this crime is not at all obvious. And we as Americans have a reasonable expectation that we would know sort of what we're doing is criminal or wrong. And just sharing a joke doesn't seem to fall under that definition. So that's an important element of the appeal. There's other elements that are constitutional, including venue. The fact that they brought this case into a Brooklyn jury in the Eastern District of New York, despite the fact that there's no nexus, other than they say, oh, well, the tweet passed over a wire through the district. I mean, come on, to have that would basically grant universal venue in any case, and then anybody could be hauled into any courtroom in the entire country, one of 94 districts, just because, a U.S. attorney in that district doesn't like the person politically or what they said. And this raises huge implications for selective enforcement, like you said, the Black Panthers intimidating people, or even what we've seen with Antifa, where they try to shut people down from giving a political speech on a campus, let's say. So this is really important that we win this appeal, and we're just waiting on the circuit court.
And when do you expect that?
So it's a little bit unusual that they would go for 13 months without rendering an opinion. So it really is the kind of thing where it could come down any day now.
Interesting. Well, you'll have to come on again and update us as soon as this comes down. I mean, I sometimes I know that when these things are going on, you have to be a little careful about what you say publicly, but do you expect this to need to go to the Supreme Court?
So I'm really hoping it doesn't have to go to the Supreme Court. If we lose for some reason or another at the circuit court, then we'll have to make a decision. Obviously, we will file an appeal at the Supreme Court, but then the question becomes, well, should we wait for that process to play out, or should we try to see if President Trump, we can ask for a pardon? So at that point, we'll make a decision, and I'm not sure what it'll be yet. It's very timely. It costs a lot of time, costs a lot of money, effort just to go to the Supreme Court. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, my word. Well, please keep us updated. So this bill in Texas that I wanted to talk to you about, this must hit home for you, even though it's not your home state. This must feel very personal to you.
Exactly.
It's, as I was saying before I brought you on, it's crazy to me that in any state, but the state of Texas, that's supposed to be a red state, it's supposed to be a state that stands for liberty and freedom, that Republicans in that state would bring HB 366. They basically, their justification for this bill, which I think the best way to summarize it is it would criminalize political memeing if there's any kind of advertising dollars behind it, which a lot of influencers, I don't do this, but a lot of influencers, pay to promote their posts on X,
right?
Which would make them liable, criminal under this bill. They say that it's to protect politicians from having AI images portraying them doing anything from tawdry acts to immoral acts to supporting things that they oppose, from those things being used to, malign them. What's your response to this bill?
Yeah, it's exactly like you said. It brings up a lot with my case. It is exactly the similar problem with the overbroad language. First of all, I noticed that the word is altered. Well, whatever that means. I mean, any kind of political advertisement is altered if you're going to talk about editing, cutting it up, putting words over the screen when someone's talking, that kind of thing. I mean, that is just so broad. And then that's going to, what you see in my case too, chill speech where people think, well, do I really want to share this meme, or is it even worth my while if I'm going to be investigated? Look, it's bad enough just to get investigated for crime. That not we're not talking about a civil fine or anything like that, which is typically how political advertisements are regulated. We're talking about criminal penalties. It's bad enough just for someone to be investigated. So just like you said, the average person is just going to think, well, it's not worth my effort. And that's what we don't want in this country. We want people to be participating in the political system.
Yeah, and the former House Speaker, whose name is Dade Phelan, he's the one who authored the bill. He actually wants to he wants to be the co-author on everybody's political tweets. He wants to have a disclaimer that people have to post, his language that let voters know that it's so-called altered, which, by the way, you make a great point. Even like brightening a photo, which everyone does when they post a photo. You know, you take a photo with your phone, you immediately go to Instagram and like put it through like brightening and vibrancy and whatever, shadows reduced and whatever you do. Like that's technically altering. Does that count?
Exactly.
Like very, very broadly. It counts if the left doesn't want you to post the meme about what they're doing. He wants his own language to be forced to be added. And to me, that's also a violation of the First Amendment, because the First Amendment protects the exercise of free speech, meaning you're allowed to say what you want, but it also protects you from compelled speech, meaning the government can't force you to say something.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And this whole thing came out of a sort of moral panic that we saw the past 4 years with the Democrats over quote unquote misinformation, disinformation. I mean, they accused me of being a Russian bot, and the federal government actually investigated. And, you know, it's funny, they were digging through my bank statements, my credit card statements. Yeah, absolutely. Because they want to see, oh, is he getting paid by somebody? So look, even if you're not getting paid, what's going to stop them from opening up a criminal investigation to find out if you are getting paid? And then they're snooping through your entire life. What happened to the Fourth Amendment? So this is extremely concerning. And I question, and this seems to happen time and time again in Texas, why are the House Republicans taking up Democrat agenda items that were sort of, this was sort of their obsession the past 4 years. We're seeing the Trump administration sort of shut a lot of this censorship mechanism down in the State Department and other places. This was their obsession over the past 4 years. I mean, look, if somebody does put out an altered video or whatever, I mean, people are usually on top of it pretty quickly. I think they say that's fake, and honestly, it sort of embarrasses them more than the target. So why do we need more laws? Why do we need more sort of criminal liability on top? And it just becomes the kind of thing where we're just stacking laws on top of laws. And why do we need all this? I don't understand why the Texas House is so obsessed with enacting Democrat agenda items into law.
Right. And by the way, I think there's a valid discussion that can happen and probably should happen about AI pornography, where you take the image and likeness of someone and you construct a video or a photo of them doing some obscene act, and then you pass it off as if the real person is doing that. This is something new that we're dealing with in our current society because AI has become so developed and so advanced. And we can have that discussion. Yeah. We can discuss what limits there are on exploiting someone and pretending that they are, you know, in this pornographic image or video or whatever it is. That's Absolutely. Not what this bill is in Texas. There are some supporters who are pretending it's just going to protect young women from like revenge AI porn. No. That's not what this bill is about. It's not. Because like I said, I would have a different opinion on a bill that was very narrowly tailored to protect people from that, even political candidates. Although I don't typically, by the way, like laws that give political candidates more protection than the average American citizen. Like, you're our equal. You even work for us. You don't get special protections because you happen to serve in a state legislature.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to we have obscenity laws on the books. And the thing is, the Supreme Court has allowed for much tighter restrictions and regulations on obscene content like pornography. And it's vile, it's disgusting. But if the government would just enforce the laws that are on the books, this sort of thing, we wouldn't have so much of a problem. And so, yeah, of course, there's nothing wrong, I don't think. But that, like you said, they're not narrowly tailoring this law to obscenity. It's casting a wide net, a broad net, and dragging in all kinds of other people. And that's what we don't want.
Yeah, and I think the Texas House of Representatives should have you testify. They should hear your story, and the people of Texas should also hear your story. What happens when the law is weaponized against political memeing, against free speech, how it's affected your life, how it's chilled speech. Constituents in Texas should understand the implications of this law, not just in debate between their elected representatives, but from a real person who was really harmed by real evil forces and government targeting. So I call on the Texas legislature to invite you to come testify if you can get the judge's permission to leave South Florida and go testify, because I think that would be a powerful tool to stop this bill before it's signed into law.
Yeah, thank you. It would be an honor to go back to beautiful Austin, Texas.
All right, you guys in Texas, write to your legislature. Tell them you want Douglas to come and testify. We are out of time for today. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. As I said, you're welcome back anytime. Update us when you have an update from the Second Circuit. Hopefully it'll be a huge victory for you. If not, you have a lot of people rallying behind you for support. We appreciate the fight that you're fighting, and we do understand, even though we're not living it, we do understand exactly what kind of pressures you're under and stress you're under, that the process is the punishment. So you can feel seen, as the kids say, in that regard, because you have a lot of people who have your back here. Douglas Mackey, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you. And let me just point out, go to memedefensefund.com to support financially.
Yes. memedefensefund.com. We can put that in the description of the episode too, so people can find that. Okay, before we go, I do want to take a moment to talk about where we are right now, because let's be honest, we're winning. Conservatives are winning, and it feels so good to say that. Our movement is gaining ground. You can call it the America First movement. You can call it the Make America Great Again movement. You know what I'm talking about. People across the country who you never thought would be conservative, let alone Republican, are waking up. The narrative of the left that had this ideological stronghold over a lot of people's minds, it's cracking. The momentum in our country culturally is finally shifting. And it's okay to take a moment and celebrate this, because it's taken a lot of work to get our country to this point. So take a moment, celebrate this. Thank you for all that you've done. But you knew there was going to be a caveat here. The fight, of course, is not over. We have won many important battles, but the war is not yet over. It's not even close. In fact, that's why we here at Blaze TV exist, because in a world full of noise, we need a stronghold for bold voices, free thinkers, and fearless commentary that helps make sense of the chaos and lead our country both culturally, politically, legally, spiritually out, away from the clutches of the evil people who don't think America is an exceptional nation. At Blaze TV, we've built just such a home for some of the strongest, smartest voices in conservative media, people who tell it like it is, who ask the tough questions that the mainstream media won't touch, and who aren't afraid to challenge the leftist narrative. When you subscribe to Blaze TV, you're not just watching our content, you're supporting the movement. You're backing creators who think for themselves, who speak boldly, who refuse to be silenced by big tech or corporate media overlords. You're supporting investigative journalism that exposes the corruption that harms our families, and original documentaries that shine a light on the deep state. It's everything that the networks won't show you, delivered on your terms, on any device, at any time. And it starts at just $8 a month, the price of a fancy cup of coffee, when you use my promo code Liz at checkout. That's blazetv.com/Liz, promo code Liz. It's only 26 cents a day to stand with a platform that stands with you. blazetv.com/Liz, promo code Liz. Please join us. We have secured a lot of victories, and I'm very proud to have done that together with you, but we have a lot of work still to do. Let's do it together. blazetv.com/Liz, promo code Liz. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the show on all the social media platforms. youtube.com/Liz_Wheeler, x.com/Liz_Wheeler. We are also live on Rumble and on Facebook and Spotify. We have video now. Go over to Spotify, search The Liz Wheeler Show, hit subscribe over there. They have a nifty feature where you can leave comments under the individual episodes. I know a lot of you have been taking part in doing that, and I appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed on Apple Podcasts as well. We'll be back, same time, same place tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show.